The slide clicks forward on the screen. My slide. My data. My exact phrasing. Even the tiny formatting error I almost fixed at midnight is still there. The decimal point slightly off-center in the third chart. Thomas Reed stands at the front of the boardroom like he owns it. His hands rest casually at his sides. His voice carries that smooth confidence that makes people believe everything he says. Around the polished table, executives nod along. Someone murmurs something positive under their breath. My chest feels tight. Heat crawls up my neck, spreading across my face. I stare at the screen, then at him, then back at the screen. I keep waiting for him to pause, to correct himself, to say the words that should come naturally. Abigail did the research on this. He doesn't pause. He doesn't correct anything. He just keeps talking, explaining my 3 months of late nights like they're his own thoughts. Like he understands the methodology behind every number. Like he built this from nothing. The executives keep nodding. Nobody looks at me. Nobody questions where this brilliant strategy actually came from. When Thomas finishes his presentation, there's a moment of silence. Then applause starts. Polite at first, the way people clap at formal business meetings. Then it grows louder. More enthusiastic. Someone even says, "Excellent work," loud enough for everyone to hear. Clap too. Have to. My palms sting from how hard I'm pressing them together. My face locks into a smile that feels painted on. The same professional smile I've practiced in mirrors since college. Under the table, my fingers grip the fabric of my skirt so tight my knuckles turn white. It's the only thing keeping me from standing up and screaming. The CEO, Mr. Vincent Harlow, leans forward in his leather chair. His eyes stay fixed on Thomas. His expression shows approval, maybe even admiration. "Excellent work, Thomas," he says clearly. "This is exactly the kind of forward-thinking strategy we need." Something inside my chest drops. Feels like falling in slow motion while sitting perfectly still. Mr. Harlow keeps talking. His words blur together at first, but then certain phrases cut through clearly. Initiative. Leadership potential. Vision for the company's future. Then he says something that makes the entire room tilt sideways. Effective immediately, you're promoted to Senior Director of Strategy. There's also a performance bonus tied directly to the success of this project. $20,000. My vision doesn't blur with tears. It's worse than that. Everything goes sharp and clear, like my brain is trying to record every detail of this moment so I'll remember it forever. I blink hard. Nobody looks at me. Nobody questions who actually did the work. Nobody even glances my way to see how I'm reacting to watching my career advancement get handed to someone else. Thomas finally turns his head toward me. Smiles. Not a guilty smile or an apologetic one. Just a calm, satisfied smile that says he knew this would happen. That says he planned for it. My hands are still gripping my skirt under the table. I walk out of the boardroom on legs that don't feel like mine. The hallway stretches ahead, lined with glass walls that reflect everything. My reflection catches my eye. I look composed, professional, completely fine. My hair is neat. My blazer sits properly on my shoulders. My expression is neutral. Nothing about my appearance shows what's happening inside. Inside something is screaming. A sound so loud it fills my head completely, but nobody else can hear it. The reality settles over me like heavy weight pressing down on my shoulders. My manager took my research. He presented it as his own work. He got promoted for it. He got a $20,000 bonus for it. And every single person in that room let it happen. They believed him. They rewarded him. They celebrated him. Keep walking. One foot in front of the other. Professional. Composed. In touch. That's what they see when they look at me. But I know the truth now. I know exactly what happened and what it means. My name is Abigail Moore. I'm 29 years old. I work as a senior analyst at Crawford & Associates, a mid-sized consulting firm with offices across 3 states. People here know me as reliable, quiet, easy to work with, the person who stays late to finish projects, the one who doesn't cause problems or make waves or demand attention. For 3 years I've done good work. I've helped senior managers look smart in meetings by preparing their materials perfectly. I've fixed their mistakes before clients notice them. I've made their jobs easier by anticipating problems and solving them quietly. And today, I watched months of my life get handed to someone else. Publicly. Confidently. Without any consequences or questions. I don't confront Thomas. Not yet. Not in the hallway where other employees might hear. Not in his office where he could spin the situation however he wants. Not anywhere that would make me look emotional or unprofessional. Instead, I go back to my desk. I sit down in my chair. I open my laptop and stare at the screen. The office continues around me like nothing significant happened. 3 months earlier, everything felt different. Thomas had leaned against my desk on a Tuesday afternoon, holding his coffee mug with the company logo printed on the side. He smiled at me like we were old friends, even though he'd only been my manager for 6 months. "Leadership keeps talking about your mind," he said casually. "How sharp you are with analysis. How you see patterns nobody else notices. They're really impressed." I felt proud hearing that. Felt like recognition. Like my work was finally being noticed by people who mattered. "Here's what I'm thinking," he continued. "You do the heavy thinking on this project. Build the strategy from the ground up. Use that analytical brain of yours. I'll handle the presentation politics, the boardroom stuff, managing expectations, dealing with executive egos. You know how they are. They want someone who speaks their language." He made it sound like partnership. Like we'd both get credit. Like this was how successful teams worked in corporate environments. I believed him. I wanted to believe him. Because Thomas was charismatic and confident, and he'd been promoted twice in 3 years. If he said this was how things worked, maybe it was. So I said yes. The late nights started immediately after that conversation. Thomas would leave the office at 5:30, sometimes even earlier. He'd stop by my desk on his way out, coffee mug in hand, and tell me to email him updates. Keep him in the loop. Let him know if I hit any roadblocks. I'd wave goodbye and settle in for another 4 or 5 hours of work. I watched the cleaning crew come through every night around 7. An older woman named Patricia would empty my trash bin and ask how I was doing. Sometimes we'd chat for a few minutes about nothing important. Weather, weekend plans, her grandson's baseball games. Then I'd be alone again. Just me, my computer, and spreadsheets that never seemed finished no matter how many hours I put into them. I adjusted financial models. I ran projections through different scenarios. Best case, worst case, most likely case. I rewrote executive summaries over and over until they were simple enough that someone could understand them in 30 seconds without any background knowledge. At 1:14 in the morning on a Wednesday in late April, I sent Thomas the final version. Every slide polished. Every number checked twice. Every recommendation backed by solid data. His response came through 3 minutes later. A thumbs up emoji. That was it. No thank you. No acknowledgement of the work. Just a yellow thumb. The week before the big presentation, Thomas asked me to send him the final slides. "I'll clean up the formatting," he explained over the phone. "Make sure everything matches the company template perfectly. You know how picky the board can be about visual consistency and branding." Made sense. He dealt with the board regularly. He knew their preferences. I sent him the file without hesitation. 2 days later, he sent the slides back with minor formatting changes. I opened the file to review his updates, mostly expecting small adjustments to fonts and spacing. That's when I noticed something odd. My name was missing from the footer where it usually appeared on project documents. Every other element was there. Project title, date, company logo. Just not my name. I sent him a message. "Hey, I think my name got deleted from the footer by accident when you were reformatting." His response came quickly. "Relax, Abigail. Everyone knows you're on my team. These presentations are always under the manager's name anyway. Just standard protocol. Don't worry about it." Something felt wrong. A small uncomfortable feeling in my stomach, like when you forget something important but can't remember what. But I pushed it away. Thomas had been here longer than me. He understood company politics better. Maybe this really was just how things worked at this level. I ignored the warning signs. Back in the present moment, Thomas catches up to me by the elevators. My hand is reaching for the down button when I hear his voice behind me. "Hey Abigail, wait up." I turn around slowly, composing my face into something neutral. He's smiling, relaxed, usual. Like we just finished a normal Tuesday meeting about quarterly reports. Like he didn't just steal 3 months of my work and get promoted for it right in front of my face. "Great job today," he says. His tone is light and friendly, the same way someone might comment on good weather or weekend plans. The board really responded well to the presentation. I could feel the energy in the room. Really positive. I search his face carefully, looking for any sign of guilt. Any indication that he knows what he did was wrong. Any hint of discomfort or apology waiting to emerge. There's nothing. His eyes are clear. His expression is genuinely pleased. His body language shows no stress or shame. He actually believes he deserves this. He thinks he earned it. The elevator doors open. I step inside without saying anything. The doors close between us, cutting off whatever else he might have said. The next morning I go to Human Resources before anyone else arrives. The HR manager, a woman named Colleen Burke, listens with sympathetic eyes and carefully folded hands resting on her desk. She nods at the right moments. She makes small sounds of understanding. She even takes a few notes on a yellow legal pad, underlining certain phrases. When I finish explaining what happened, how Thomas took my research, presented it as his own, got promoted for work I did, she sighs softly. "I understand how frustrating this must feel," she begins. Her voice is kind but practiced, like she's had this conversation before. The challenge is that modern workplaces emphasize collaboration, team projects, shared credit. It becomes very difficult to prove individual ownership when multiple people contribute to something. "But I didn't just contribute," I say, keeping my voice steady and professional. "I created the entire strategy. Every analysis. Every recommendation. Every slide." "Do you have documentation showing that?" she asks, pen hovering over her notepad. "Email chains. Draft versions with my name on them. Timestamps on files showing I created them. My personal notes and research." She nods slowly, writing something down. "That's good. But Thomas is the manager of your team. Technically, oversight of projects falls under his responsibilities. The company might view this as him effectively managing resources and delegating appropriately." The words feel like a door closing. I leave her office with pamphlets about workplace communication and conflict resolution, and a headache pressing behind my eyes. No resolution. No investigation. No justice. Just sympathy and paperwork. 2 weeks after Thomas's promotion, I'm reassigned to a different role. The email comes from Colleen in HR. It's framed as a lateral move, same title, same pay grade. A chance to gain broader experience in operational support. An opportunity to develop new skills. But everyone understands what it really means. My new office is smaller. No window. Dimmer lighting. Located in a quieter section of the building where executives rarely walk past. My new projects have less visibility. Less impact on company strategy. Less of everything that matters for career advancement. My official title stays the same on paper, but the reality has shifted completely. I've been quietly pushed aside, made less visible, reduced. Thomas stops by my new desk on my first day in the role. He leans against the doorframe with that same casual confidence he always carries, like the world naturally makes space for him. "Hey, this is just temporary," he assures me with a sympathetic smile. "You'll bounce back. You're smart. You're capable. You'll figure it out and work your way back up." I nod. I smile politely. I thank him for the encouragement. Inside, something fundamental shifts in how I see the world. I stop hoping for fairness. I stop expecting people to do the right thing simply because it's right. Something changes in me over the following weeks. I stop explaining myself in meetings when people talk over me. I stop venting to coworkers during lunch breaks about unfairness or frustration. I stop expecting sympathy or support from people who have their own careers to protect and their own problems to worry about. Instead, I start watching everything more carefully. Really watching. I save every email before deleting it from my inbox, creating organized folders by project and date. I archive early drafts of documents with clear version histories. I keep detailed notes about who asks what questions in meetings, and more importantly, who can't answer those questions without checking with someone else first. I track decision-making patterns across departments. I notice who gets credit for ideas that actually originated with someone else. I observe how information flows through the company, how power really works beyond the official organizational chart that hangs in the lobby. Nobody notices my shift in behavior. I'm still quiet, professional Abigail. Still helpful. Still reliable. That's exactly the point. I'm hiding in plain sight while building something they can't see yet. My new role puts me closer to raw operational data than I've ever been before. While Thomas handles high-level strategy presentations and attends executive dinners, I'm working with the actual numbers that show how the company runs day to day. Budget allocations across departments, resource utilization rates, project timelines and completion rates, client satisfaction metrics, employee productivity patterns. I start seeing patterns that other people miss because they're not looking at the full picture. Small inefficiencies that compound over time, costing thousands of dollars. Warning signs in client accounts that nobody notices until complaints start coming in. Projects that look successful on paper but are actually struggling beneath the surface. I fix problems quietly before they become visible. I send brief, professional emails flagging potential issues. I make suggestions that save time and money, but I frame them carefully as questions rather than criticisms. Have we considered this approach? Instead of this approach is wrong. Executives start adding me to email chains, just in case. Just in case they need clarification on something. Just in case numbers don't add up. Just in case the person presenting doesn't actually understand the details behind their own presentation. My name appears in more inboxes. People start remembering who I am beyond Thomas's analyst. Thomas starts making decisions faster after his promotion. Too fast. Without the careful analysis that good decisions require. In meetings, he references projections from my old research without fully understanding the assumptions behind those numbers. When people ask detailed follow-up questions, he responds with confidence instead of clarity. He uses broad statements that sound impressive but don't actually answer what was asked. We've optimized our approach across multiple verticals. The data clearly supports this direction. Our methodology accounts for various market factors. I watch this happen over and over in different meetings with different audiences. Sometimes he looks directly at me during these moments, his eyes seeking help, expecting me to jump in and rescue him like I used to. Sometimes I do, but only when someone asks me directly. Then I answer clearly and precisely, providing the specific details he couldn't. Then I stop talking and sit back down. Every time this happens, the room shifts slightly. People notice the difference between his vague confidence and my specific knowledge. Nobody says anything openly. But awareness grows slowly, like cracks spreading across ice. A board member named Mr. Patrick Dunn asks a specific question during a quarterly review meeting in late June. The cost reduction in the client services division. How exactly was that achieved? I want to understand the actual methodology, not just the results. Thomas hesitates, just for a second, but everyone notices it. Well, we streamlined several processes and improved efficiency across multiple operational areas. It's a non-answer. Collection of business buzzwords that mean nothing specific. Mr. Dunn's eyes narrow slightly behind his glasses. Can you be more specific about which processes were changed and why? Thomas shifts in his chair. His confident posture wavers. Abigail worked closely on the operational details of implementation. She can probably explain the technical aspects better than I can since she was more hands-on with the numbers. Every head in the conference room turns toward me. I stand up calmly. I explain the methodology step by step. Which processes were changed, why those specific changes were chosen, what alternatives were considered and rejected, what the measurable impacts were on both cost and service quality. I keep my tone neutral and professional. I don't make Thomas look bad intentionally. I just answer the question accurately and completely. When I finish, Mr. Dunn nods slowly, making a note on his tablet. "Thank you, Abigail. That was very clear and thorough. It's the first time my name has carried real weight in a room like this." I sit back down. Thomas is staring at his notepad, pen frozen in his hand. Thomas grows louder over the next month. More dismissive of other people's input. More territorial about his projects and his authority. He interrupts people more frequently in meetings, especially when they ask questions he can't answer fully. He talks over junior staff members. He even starts interrupting me. During a strategy meeting about expanding into new regional markets, I'm explaining risk factors related to regulatory differences when Thomas cuts me off mid-sentence. I think what Abigail means to say is that we need to be cautious but not overly conservative in our approach. Mr. Harlow, the CEO, raises one eyebrow. It's subtle, but everyone in the room sees it. Thomas trails off, suddenly uncertain. "Actually," Mr. Harlow says evenly, "I'd like to hear what Abigail was saying." "Please continue, Abigail." I finish my explanation about specific regulatory challenges and how they might impact our timeline and budget. I provide examples from similar companies that tried to expand too quickly. Thomas doesn't interrupt again during that meeting. Afterward, people avoid eye contact with him in the hallway. The shift in perception is becoming visible. An internal performance review is announced in an all-staff email on a Friday afternoon. It's described as routine. Just a standard evaluation to assess departmental effectiveness and identify areas for improvement across the organization. Nothing to worry about. Nothing unusual. Thomas jokes about it in the break room on Monday morning. They do these corporate audit things every couple of years. Total waste of time and resources. Just executives checking boxes to justify their own positions. Other people laugh nervously, sipping their coffee. Nobody wants to seem worried. I don't laugh. I just nod slightly and return to my desk. That night, after everyone else has gone home, I go through my carefully organized files one more time. I check that every email is saved in the right folder. Every draft is archived with proper timestamps. Every piece of evidence is accessible and clearly labeled. I don't know if anyone will ask me questions. But if they do, I'll be completely ready. Everything changes on a Wednesday morning in early August. Mr. Harlow, the CEO, announces his resignation. The email hits everyone's inbox at 8:30. It's sudden and unexpected. He's taking a position as Chief Operating Officer at a much larger company in another state. Something about family reasons and new opportunities. The official statement is deliberately vague and polite, the way these announcements always are. Leadership scrambles immediately. The board of directors steps in to manage the transition. They schedule emergency meetings. They cancel other projects to focus on organizational stability. They bring in consultants to assess various departments. Everything accelerates. The careful political dynamics that Thomas has been navigating suddenly don't matter anymore. The relationships he's built, the image he's crafted, the favors he's accumulated. None of it helps when the entire executive structure is being reevaluated from scratch. The board announces they'll conduct a thorough assessment before selecting a new CEO. They want to make sure they truly understand how different departments actually function, not just how they appear on organizational charts. Keep working quietly. I answer questions when asked. I provide data when requested. I don't volunteer information, but I don't hide anything either. I don't push myself forward. I don't need to anymore. The board requests detailed performance breakdowns for every major project from the past year. Thomas presents his projections first, the expected outcomes from various strategic initiatives he's supposedly led. His slides look professional and polished. His delivery is smooth and confident. He sounds authoritative, explaining how his decisions and leadership led to positive results for the company. Then someone from the finance department displays actual performance data on the screen beside Thomas's projections. The gaps are impossible to ignore. Several initiatives performed significantly differently than Thomas projected. Some better, some worse. But the patterns don't match his explanations about why things happened the way they did or how his leadership influenced outcomes. Board members start flipping through printed reports more carefully. Eyes move back and forth between Thomas at the front of the room and the data on the screens. Expressions shift from neutral attention to subtle questioning. Someone asks for clarification about specific methodology behind one of the projections. Thomas provides a general answer about analytical frameworks and data-driven decision-making. The board member persists. Can someone walk us through the actual decision-making process, step by step? I want to understand exactly how these conclusions were reached. Silence stretches across the conference room for several long seconds. Then Mr. Dunn turns toward where I'm sitting. Abigail, you've been close to these numbers throughout the process. Can you explain this in detail? I stand up. My voice doesn't shake. My hands don't tremble. I walk them through the methodology behind each major project. I explain which assumptions were tested at the beginning and why we chose to test those specific factors. I describe how decisions were adjusted based on incoming data as projects progressed. I clarify what worked well and what didn't, without exaggerating successes or downplaying failures. I never mention Thomas by name. I never say he didn't understand this, or he took credit for my work, or he's been lying to you. I don't need to say any of that. The contrast between his vague, confident explanations and my detailed, specific knowledge tells the story more clearly than any accusation could. Board members take extensive notes. They ask follow-up questions about particular decisions, about alternative approaches we considered, about how we measured success. I answer each question precisely, providing context and rationale. Thomas sits rigid in his chair at the front of the room. His face has gone pale. His hands grip the edges of his notepad tightly. He's finally understanding what's happening. What I've been building quietly for months. The truth doesn't need dramatic accusations. It just needs to be demonstrated clearly and calmly. Thomas interrupts me halfway through explaining a particularly complex analysis. I think there's some confusion here, he says loudly, his voice carrying an edge that wasn't there before. As the director of strategy, I oversee the high-level vision and strategic direction. Abigail handles implementation details and operational execution. That's how team structures work in any organization. I stop talking immediately. I wait calmly, my expression neutral. Mr. Dunn looks at Thomas for a long moment. But you presented this research as your own work 3 months ago. You described the methodology in detail during your presentation. You answered technical questions about it. You accepted a promotion based on this work. I was representing the team's work, Thomas deflects quickly. That's literally my role as director. I synthesize the team's efforts into coherent strategy. Did you tell the board that Abigail conducted the primary research? Another board member asks directly. Thomas shifts uncomfortably in his seat. It was implied. Everyone knew she was on my team. That's standard corporate protocol. That's not what implied means, Mr. Dunn says quietly, but his words carry weight in the silent room. Thomas tries to recover. He raises his voice slightly, adopting a tone of injured dignity. He attempts to reframe the conversation toward leadership philosophy and team dynamics and proper organizational hierarchy. Each word costs him credibility. Every excuse makes the situation worse. Every deflection highlights what he's trying to hide. Finally he stops talking. The silence that follows is heavy and absolute. Nobody moves. Nobody speaks. Nobody defends him. Nobody jumps in to smooth things over or change the subject. The meeting ends 30 minutes later. Board members thank everyone for their time and participation. They say they'll be conducting additional assessments over the next few days. They ask several people, including me, to remain available for follow-up conversations. Thomas leaves quickly. He doesn't look at anyone. He doesn't stop to chat in the hallway like he usually does. I gather my materials slowly and carefully. As I'm walking toward the door, Mr. Dunn approaches me with purposeful steps. "Abigail, could you stay for a few minutes? The board would like to speak with you privately." My heart speeds up, but I keep my expression neutral and professional. Of course. The room clears except for the 5 board members. They take seats around the conference table in a more casual arrangement, and I sit across from them. Mr. Dunn speaks first. His tone serious but not unkind. "We've been reviewing performance data across the entire company very carefully over the past week. Your name appears frequently in documentation for successful projects. People consistently mention you in interviews as someone who understands both strategic thinking and operational details. Someone who can translate between executives and implementation teams." Wait. I don't fill the silence with nervous talking. Another board member, an older woman named Ms. Priya Chandra, continues. "We need stability right now. We need someone who actually understands how this company functions at every level. Someone people already trust and turn to when they explain the terms carefully. Interim status for 6 months while they conduct a full formal executive search. Substantial salary increase. More than double my current compensation. Full authority to make organizational changes as needed. Complete support from the board for strategic decisions. Access to executive coaching and leadership development." "We know this is sudden," Mr. Dunn acknowledges, watching my face carefully. "This is a significant jump. Take time to think about it if you need to. We can give you until tomorrow morning to decide." I don't need time. I've been preparing for something like this without even consciously realizing it. Every late night I stayed to perfect analysis. Every problem I solved quietly without demanding credit. Every time I helped someone understand complex information. Every piece of documentation I carefully saved. It was all building toward this moment. "I accept," I say clearly. Relief shows visibly on their faces. They stand to shake my hand. We discuss transition logistics and timing. They want to announce the decision tomorrow morning in an all-staff meeting. They'll handle the official communications and messaging. As I walk out of the conference room, my reflection catches in the glass walls lining the hallway. I still look composed and professional, the same as always. But now there's something else visible, something stronger and more certain in my posture. Something that was always there but is finally being recognized. The quiet analyst who people overlooked has just become their leader. My first week as interim CEO involves dozens of meetings, transitions, and strategic decisions. One of those decisions involves Thomas Reed. He sits across from my new desk, the large corner office that used to belong to Mr. Harlow, with windows overlooking the entire city. Thomas looks smaller somehow, diminished, pale and stunned. The confidence that always surrounded him like armor has completely disappeared. I keep my tone professional and neutral. There's no satisfaction in my voice, no anger, no triumph. Just clear, direct communication about business necessity. "This role is no longer a fit for the company's needs," I tell him. "We're restructuring the strategy division to align better with operational realities. Your position is being eliminated as part of that restructuring." "You're firing me," he says quietly. "It's not a question. It's a statement of fact." "Yes." He's silent for a moment, staring at his hands. Then he looks up. "Because of what happened. Because I presented your research as my own work. Because you can't do the job you were promoted into," I correct him calmly. "The board needs people who genuinely understand the work they're responsible for. People who can answer detailed questions. People who can make informed decisions. That's not personal. It's just reality." He stares at his hands again. When he speaks, his voice is quieter. I thought I could handle it. I thought having the title was what mattered. I thought if I just acted confident enough, the rest would follow. Titles mean nothing if you can't back them up with actual competence, I say. There's nothing else to discuss. He signs the termination paperwork with shaking hands. He leaves with a small cardboard box containing his personal items from his desk, a few framed photos, a coffee mug, some books he never read. No audience watches him go. No dramatic scene plays out in the office. No one even knows it's happening. It's clean, necessary, and final. That evening, I sit alone in my new office long after everyone else has gone home. The city spreads out below the floor-to-ceiling windows, lights beginning to flicker on as darkness settles over everything. My reflection shows clearly in the glass. Steady, composed, stronger than I've ever felt in my entire career. 3 months ago, I sat in a boardroom and watched my work get stolen in front of everyone who mattered. I felt invisible, erased, powerless, like nothing I did would ever be recognized or valued. But I didn't fight back with anger or public accusations. I didn't make scenes or demand immediate justice. I didn't try to tear Thomas down or expose him dramatically. Instead, I became undeniable. I let my competence speak louder than any complaint could have. I built something they couldn't ignore, a reputation for being the person who actually understands how things work. The one people trust when they need real answers. The one who solves problems instead of creating them. Thomas wanted shortcuts to success. He wanted credit without work, titles without competence, recognition without earning it. He thought confidence and charisma were enough. I wanted something different. I wanted to be so genuinely good at what I do that nobody could overlook me again. So capable that my value became obvious to everyone. The difference between us was simple. He focused on appearing successful. I focused on actually being capable. And capability always wins eventually. Maybe not immediately. Maybe not obviously. But eventually the truth becomes clear. I never let anyone convince me I was invisible again. Because I finally understood something important. You don't become visible by demanding attention. You become visible by being undeniably valuable.